Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, encoded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2, encoded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3, encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4, encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5, encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6, encoded.
Now, come on, you can, lump boy.
Great Scott! Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome to another Saturday Night Drive-In where I didn't screw up the intro this week. We are here to have a good time, take a break. There's a lot going on in the world. For the next couple of days, certain events are going to suck up all the oxygen in the room. But just for a moment, let's talk a movie. Let's have a little fun. Let's separate it. Jed, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm always excited to do Saturday Night Drive-In because, like you said, we just need a little escapism. Yeah. And that's what entertainment used to provide. So we hope to offer that to our viewers and offer it to ourselves by just talking about an old movie. Even if we don't both like it or think it's great, we can have good old-fashioned nerd discussions.
Yeah.
That used to be the lifeblood of entertainment. And I'm very excited to be here for that.
Yep. And I'm having a heat wave. It's 42 degrees outside. Woo!
Whoa.
And it's going to snow again tomorrow. Yeah. Anyway.
It's 70 degrees here. It's pretty chilly.
Shut up. God damn it. All right. Anyway, welcome everybody across both the chats. We are happy to have you all here on this Saturday evening. Hit those like buttons. And, let's just dive right in. I chose a cult classic this week. This one is considered a cult science fiction classic. And the thing is, you don't even realize what type of movie it is until the third act, really. That it's basically a space alien abduction movie. You don't really know it until the third act. But we got Dark City, 1998, starring, I had his name here a second ago. Geez. All right. Boomered it up. I'm sorry. I did it. I had his name a second ago. I forgot it.
His name is Rufus Sewell.
Sewell. Thank you. Rufus Sewell, Kiefer Sutherland, a young Jennifer Connelly, and several other people who, whatever. But it's a nice little movie. I watch it, I think, at least once a year, maybe every couple of years. I'll sit down and I'll watch it to remember. Yeah, I do like this movie. I don't forget it, but I always try to see if there's more to it than I think there is. Because that's the thing. I remember when it came out, and it came out to a wet fart. It was not critically acclaimed. It happened. It came. It went. But people who are into dark science fiction, with morally gray stuff and this and that. They gravitated to it. They really enjoy it, and it is celebrated in its cult circles. And like I said, I do like it, but I always watch it to see if I can find anything more in it. And this time, I think I found something else in it for the sake of our discussion today. Jed, this was your first time watching it. How are you feeling on it?
Well, I'd never even heard of this film. I went into it with no expectations, no knowledge of the plot, or even really who was in it. And I didn't realize until your intro actually a minute ago that this was by the guy who made The Crow. When your title screen came out, that's when I realized that. And it makes a lot of sense because I compared it to The Crow a lot throughout it. It has a lot of the same kind of gothic vibe to it. And it makes a lot of sense. I did enjoy this film more than The Crow. I will have to say that this was definitely more up my alley, at least. There are problems with it, but at the root of it, it is an interesting concept that I think could have been executed much better, but it's still an interesting concept to discuss. And I think some things weren't clear enough with that concept. I think a TV show to really give it a little bit more breadth could have paid off with this concept because it's interesting. Absolutely. The idea that the human psyche, the human soul, as they put it, is something that aliens would strive to recreate for themselves is cool, but it comes at the last second and isn't explored in any sort of depth.
I can see that. Because let me set the stage real quick. So what we have here is the movie starts where you have the character John Murdoch waking up in a room having no idea what's going on and then proceeds to get swept up in basically what this city's purpose is. And we'll get right to it because if we go through it step by step, we'll just be plodding along the plot, waiting for the big reveals. Well, essentially, this is a giant spaceship city floating through space, and a group of aliens who are basically parasitic aliens who inhabit dead human bodies have the psychic power to basically create things at will and basically transform matter, stuff like that. Just they're basically almost godlike in a way, but their godlike powers work as a unit, as a one single entity, because as the movie reveal, they share a collective hive mind thought process. They all share the same memories, the same experiences. There's no there's individuality, but it's
surface level.
So yeah. Deep down, they are all connected, and they're a dying parasitic alien race. So they have kidnapped, I would say, the population of a small city and dropped it in here for experimentation purposes to find out what is the human soul. What makes up the human soul so that they can maybe break their collectiveness and save their dying race. Now,
which I think is one of the problems is it's unclear about what's threatening them. We do know that they're setting these humans to save their species, but why is their species in danger? Is it that they've found themselves to be short-sighted, so they're losing a war? Is it that they can't evolve on a genetic level with that individuality or with predators to keep them advancing? Like there's no explanation why they need the human soul to save their species. The why, I think, is a problem.
That's an excellent point. That didn't occur to me, because what occurred to me is, and I'm gonna go against my usual thing. We always know I like good world building. I love big, broad world building as that. But this movie, for the most part, actually benefits from the limited world building because to me, it adds to the ambiance of it. We know they're obviously from Earth. These are people taken from Earth. The species have taken their memories and crafted this city, and it's kind of an interesting concept. The city itself, at first you think it looks kind of like 1950s, but it's actually a hodgepodge of like the 50s, 60s, and a little bit of the 40s, and a little bit of maybe the 70s, 80s. It's like it's got like little things all over the place that don't quite mess up. And they actually admit it when Kiefer Sutherland's character, his doctor character, is explaining things to Murdoch. He actually says, yeah, they took our memories and built this city based on different periods. So it's an interesting concept that it feels like something, but isn't quite right. And I like that. But other than that, I find it enough to know that, yes, these people were obviously kidnapped from Earth. But the fact that they have no memory of Earth, they have no memory of that, and no idea how to even want to get back. I think to me that adds to the ambiance of the whole thing. You don't need to know that they want to get back to Earth. You don't need to know any
in
of
the
that.
first two acts, I think that's true, but the third act goes so big, so bombastic, so over the top, and delves into the world building that I think that damages that argument. If they kept that kind of ambiance and then had maybe an ambiguous ending, like he's finally realized that there's something else going on, kind of more Matrix 1 ending, I think that ambiguity and that lack of world building would have helped it a lot. But that third act, I think, is when the movie really falls apart.
Well, I think I can agree with you on that. It could be because at the very end, it doesn't explain what happens next. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And in this, I think it's like a 50-50. Where you kind of know where a certain thing is going to go, but the rest of it is like, okay, how's this going to work?
Yeah. And just why the aliens are doing this, why John suddenly has the tuning. Like,
well, I think to me, there was enough given to me that who knows, honestly, how long these people have been out there. That's the thing, too. We have no idea. Because of what they're doing, these people could have been out there for years, and we don't know if they're aging at all or not. The old people the aging could have been stopped by the aliens.
I think it could have been helped a lot with just a throwaway line, because we knew by the end that Kiefer Sutherland's character had been working to help John and helped him with the memory implantation to control his powers, obviously. I think it would have been easy for him to say, I had unfettered access to people's memories, people's minds, and I was able to pick you and manipulate you using their DNA to give you the tuning.
Well,
I think that's better than just, he just sort of has it.
Well, they obviously, that was never a plan, because Kiefer Sutherland's character was surprised when John woke up in the middle of that.
But I think that would have worked better if they'd gone in that route, and it would help explain how he was able to get a memory dose for him that perfectly gave him muscle memory, apparently, at the end for the Deus Ex Machina.
Well, actually, I think that's okay what they did there, but let's put a pin in that, because let me set the movie up, because that's at the end. Our conversation's gone right to the nitty gritty of how the third act both works and doesn't work, which I agree. It both works and doesn't work for several reasons. But anyway, so John Murdoch wakes up in the apartment, and he's at a murder scene, and he doesn't remember committing the murder, and he immediately goes on the run when the cops show up and the aliens show up, and we get thrust in this whole thing where at first you think he's just some guy who's lost his memory and he murdered he's got an unfaithful wife played by Jennifer Connelly. You got William Hurt. Great. I think the best performance in this is William Hurt's performance. I think that's the best one.
Absolutely. I actually watched his other space movie from '98 the same day for the first time, Lost in Space.
Oh, God.
I didn't realize how good of an actor John Hurt was back in the day. Everett Ross is really my main knowledge of him. Oh,
that he phones it in those movies. John Hurt was a legitimate actor. Did a lot of great roles, a lot of good work, but Lost in Space, that's a garbage movie.
I liked it better than this one. I actually didn't hate it. The third act was insane in Lost in Space as well. But
Lost in Space butchered its own source materials. What it did.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the original TV show.
Oh man, all right, small tangent. I grew up watching a TV show because that was one of those shows they threw on Nick at Night when I was a kid. So it was just on, and I watched it. Listen, the cast is good. Well, except
for Matt LeBlanc.
Except for Matt LeBlanc. I mean, John Hurt, Gary Oldman. Oh, man, that's just good stuff right there. That's great stuff. But that movie is just, it's a hodgepodge, and it doesn't, there's so much wrong with it. Terrible. Anyway, that's another thing. Well, maybe someday we'll suffer that movie as someone makes us, because I ain't choosing that movie, and I know you're probably not gonna choose it either.
Oh, I'm gonna choose it. I didn't hate the movie. I quite enjoyed it, except for the third act.
I don't hate it. I just think it's dumb.
It's pretty dumb. It is very dumb. It doesn't know how time travel works.
Although Mimi Rogers in that form-fitting spacesuit, hey.
I think I lost a little bit of my soul when they flew down through the planet to escape the planet's gravity. That's when I nearly died.
Man. I haven't seen that movie in well over a decade, so it's been a long time. There's a reason for I haven't seen it, because it's not good. And that's another discussion for another time. But right here, William Hurt's performance is the most down-to-earth, dialed-in one, because he he remains the everyday man in this who is being challenged by the questions, because as we go through this, Murdoch, he knows sort of what's going on. Kiefer Sutherland sort of is telling him little bits and pieces every time they come into contact, and the interactions are happening. And William Hurt's character, he as a person in this moment has been thrust into the role of a police officer. So let's explain what goes on in this world. So what happens in order for the aliens to explore what a human soul is? They believe it's in memories, which to me is not all that wrong.
It's not a bad bet.
Yeah, because I've thought, as a fantasy writer myself, I've always thought, what is a human soul? Because I've dealt with soul stealing, souls and that, and what makes up a soul? What makes up a person? What makes a person is their memories and experiences, and it drives them, it shapes them, it crafts them, it makes them behave in the manner based upon what those experiences were. Therefore, if you're taking somebody's experiences, that is essentially part of their soul. It's part of who they are. But there's a line at the end where John says you were looking in the wrong spot. There is also the emotional part, the thing that is unexplainable of what makes up a human soul. But the idea of looking for memories to try and translate that into soul is an interesting way to go. Problem is, because these are literal alien life forms, they're parasitic life forms that don't have that concept of an individuality or individual memory. They think that by mixing up the memories and transplanting them into different people and changing their lives around every night, or every 12 hours or so, because this world lives in a perpetual 12-hour nighttime. Never, because it's in space. There's floating around there. So they have these people swapping out lives. They'll stop them. Sometimes they'll keep them the same, but some people they'll swap them out, give them fresh memories, and live it out. And the story is starting out where they had John set up to be a murderer because they wanted to experiment on how somebody would murder and why they would murder, and would they fulfill their desires based upon the experiences of betrayal and hatred. Problem is, as we said, John wakes up in the middle of it, which sometimes happens apparently, as the movie reveals, and he didn't get the dose. But problem is, at the same time, through whatever reason, because that's why I brought up earlier, we don't know how long they've been going through this. We don't know how many times he's gone through the process. Something happened where the alien's ability to tune, which is the matter transformation psychic abilities crap, he developed it. He evolved. And you were saying that that's not enough for you, that he just spontaneously evolved.
Yeah, it's not enough for me, especially because there's no explanation for it. That is a massive leap in evolution if that's their excuse. And I think it kind of goes against the whole message of the film of searching for the soul and whatnot. We don't want to be more like the aliens who are dying because they don't have souls. So he's becoming less human, but it makes him more human at the end for the ending. I think this film would have been substantially better without him having the tuning at all, just being one of the ones who woke up and didn't go mad. Like he was able to cling to his sanity, unlike that police detective we saw who also woke up and just kind of lost his mind, ultimately Minecrafting himself with a train. Like, I think that would have been much better. And then you could have a finale that doesn't look like the finale of the third Matrix film up in the sky. I think that just would have worked a lot more with the themes of the film and focused on the psychology rather than the superpowers. I think the superpowers damaged the film.
Really?
I think it makes it a little too cheesy to the point where I can't take it.
I can understand that
when it's trying to have a thoughtful exploration of what makes a soul.
I liked the psychic battle, but I think it would have been better if they weren't flying at the end of it. I can agree on that. It didn't need hovering and this and that. But again, we'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
So John goes on. Go ahead.
There is one thing that happened at the very beginning, the first thing that happens in the film, and I think it is the worst part of the film. Okay. I actually mentioned it to you in the green room that this one small change, if you got rid of it, that would make the movie so much better for me. It's Kiefer Sutherland's monologue, his voiceover at the very beginning of the film, because it gives away the ending. it tells us, hey, aliens came and they're studying humans to try to save their dying race, all in his terrible breathy voice. I wanted it to be a mystery. If we had been just dropped into John's point of view, where he's confused, he's scared.
See, I knew you'd probably like the mystery aspect of this.
Right. And that was the part of the film that I liked, just like you're saying. It drew me in, but it was also handicapped substantially by the resolution, by the mystery being revealed in the opening voiceover. If you just cut out the voiceover, everything you find out in the voiceover, you find out over the course of the film. We don't need Kiefer Sutherland's voiceover. And yeah, it makes it so I'm not as invested because I know where it's all going to end.
Okay.
It reveals way too much. So if you just cut out that 30 seconds of voiceover and let us figure it out as John figures it out, that helps so much.
Which if you take that out, and that's an interesting point, that see, maybe because I've seen it so many times, that didn't register for me. But I knew you'd probably appreciate the way the movie carefully goes through the mystery, and at moments of exposition, it's the kind of exposition we like, where it's woven into a proper conversation and a proper back and
For the
forth.
most part, there was some rough exposition. The one that I looked to is, I think his name was Mr. Hands, the one who got John's fake memories implanted in him.
Yeah, Mr. Hands.
He randomly in the middle of the conversation goes, and you know that we possess the corpses of your dead, and we're little fish people. We already saw that, and we're going to see it in much better detail at the end when he sucks out the bad guy's symbiote. That there's just moments of exposition where everything just halts and is like, yeah, we're squids inside dead people. Okay.
I can accept that. That one feels kind of ham-fisted in there.
There's a few of those with Kiefer Sutherland as well.
Well, the problem is, while Kiefer Sutherland does a good job, he was a little miscast in this.
I agree. I think he was the worst part of the film.
Yeah, because
mainly because the direction. I think he could have been good in the role, but his breathy voice.
You need someone a little more squirrely. Somebody not so, I'm going to say, not so masculine. Kiefer Sutherland is a masculine dude, and you needed kind of a pissant little scientist type person who is easily beaten up, and it looks like they're easily thrown around and tossed around and manipulated, that they have no power. Kiefer Sutherland, his gimp was not effective. I know they gave him the gimp to try and take away from the fact that Kiefer Sutherland has a presence on camera. Just like his father, R.I.P. Donald Sutherland. These are guys who have presences when they're in these roles, when in their roles of movie. Kiefer Sutherland's presence, he overshadows other people in the scene. Like even though what's his name, Sewell, people recognize him from tons of movies. Dude's in a lot of shit. But Kiefer Sutherland and William Hurt overpower him in every scene they're in. They have stronger presences. And you needed somebody to play the scientist role that is not so in your face, and you're drawn more to him than you are to our protagonist.
Yeah, it needed to be a smaller name, maybe not less talented actor, but a less known actor.
Yeah, we're not talking about lack of talent. Kiefer Sutherland does a fine job. It's just a slight miscast because he overpowers the role with his presence and ability.
I actually had the same thought watching it, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or just laugh in my face, but the whole time I was thinking it'd be funny if it was the inconceivable guy from Princess Bride. That's the actor I was thinking.
He's too
or
silly.
Joe Pesci.
He's too silly. That's too silly. Joe Pesci could be serious, but you need. I wouldn't say somebody so short, but somebody tall, wiry, thin, not athletic. Kiefer Sutherland still looks athletic in that sense, and I'm not buying his gimpy scientist weakness act, and that it's just not enough. The best part of Kiefer Sutherland is when he's in the implanted memories. That's perfect. That's great. He's at his best in the implanted memory montage. But the rest of it is just it's not terrible, but it's just it's a miscast. It's a miscast. And compared, like I said, to William Hurt, who just is great, delivering a solid, skeptical performance. As now we come back to where we end up the tangent. He is the guy who is now faced with these questions as he's trying to solve the mystery, because in this current time, he is a cop, and he's the one tasked with solving the murder of the serial killer murders of all the dead hookers. So
I think the film should have focused on William Hurt's character and Sue Well's character. Really made them the two stars and gotten rid of Kiefer Sutherland's importance. Like, obviously, you still need a human scientist to be that bridge and whatnot, but not make him the Deus Ex Machina at the end and just focus on them, almost a cat and mouse game as they're both figuring out that this world isn't real. And then you really don't get the revelation about aliens until the very end.
And then they come together to work together, which they do. They do come together.
They do briefly before William Hurt just dies.
Yeah, that's a horrible death. That's a horrible death. Where Okay, so part of the movie is that Murdoch is trying to get back to Shell Beach, and no one seems to understand or know where. They know of Shell Beach, but they don't know how to get there. There is no Shell Beach. It's not there. It's just a fake memory created by the amalgamation of Kiefer Sutherland's and the aliens' memory experiments. But he wants to get there. And at one point, when they're on the run completely, they're working together on the run. They've got Kiefer Sutherland's character, and we get the big dump, the information reveal of everything, and they get to the literal end of the city, and it's just a big wall that says Shell Beach, and they decide to break through the wall with sledgehammers. Where the sledgehammers were, I don't know. Those kind of came out of nowhere.
That was weird.
They were just there. And they bust through it, and then boom, there's space. And that's the reveal that you were in space. We'd been told that these were others, that they were there, but at this point, you don't know you're in space. And it's a good reveal. It's like, oh shit, it's a spaceship
that has a brick outer wall that you can bust through.
Well, it's the real outer walls is clearly
the shield,
psionic shield.
Yeah, there's the shield, which comes into importance later, but it's still like.
And listen, they went this far and they decided to go no farther. So they break through, and in that moment, the others arrive, the aliens arrive, Mr. Hand and his cronies arrive, and they attack them, and there's a brief fight. Problem is, during the fight, they have Jennifer Connelly's character, her later name is Anne. Well, I forget her first name. It doesn't matter. She's Jennifer Connelly. She's young and hot in this one. They have her as a hostage, and the fight breaks out, but William Hurt's detective character, inspector, fights with one, and they end up falling through the wall into space, and they pass through the psionic shield. And then through his eyes, we get a shot of the full dark city floating out there. And then he just dies and he gets sucked out. It's such a ignominious ending. Because
it's so unsatisfying. Because we're seeing a lot of this through his eyes. Like, he is an important character unraveling the mystery without the benefit of superpowers and a lack of a memory to know that something's unusual. Yeah. And he's really, just like you said, the everyday person. He's got fake implanted memories, and yet he's still questioning his reality. He's one of the only people who question it with the memories. Yeah, Jennifer Connelly and the others have to be told to question it. He kind of just instinctually is. Maybe that's because of the cop instinct they implant in him.
Yeah.
But he was such an interesting character that went nowhere.
It's just he ends. And it's not like he does anything to change anything, because even if he hadn't taken out one of the aliens with him, Murdoch's still captured at that point. And at the end, Murdoch would have flattened that alien along with everybody else when the giant psionic battle. So, I mean, he just dies so we can get a look at the city for the first time. And it's a shame, because you're going to have a good character like that who, as we said, he's the everyday man. He's our perspective through this of somebody coming to grips with all the weirdness. Have a great sacrifice moment. Like, what if he's the one that gets the injection and puts it into John because Kiefer Sutherland didn't have a chance, or maybe he comes in at the last second because they left him for dead and he was following and he does something to distract it so Kiefer Sutherland could do the switch and this, that. Give him something more to do. It's such, as I said, an ignominious ending. It's so flat, and it's not worthy of both William Hurt's performance and the character performance. It just wasn't, it just, and I hate it every time.
It didn't need to be William Hurt. With what he made an impact on the film, it could have been anyone. You could have hired an extra just to stand there and be like, yeah, I'm a cop. I'm looking for the serial killer.
Yeah. So I'm right there with you. It's a shame. It's a wasted moment and a wasted part of the performance. But the whole entire thing in the end there is what happens is the aliens want to get Murdoch because they think he's now the link to their answer. of evolving themselves so that they can continue to live. And the whole boils down to the question of the movie: what is the soul? What is it? What is a person? Where do you go? And that's, I guess, where I want to go towards the end of this, because there's, as you said, we started. There's not much to say.
No.
I thought we'd get a little more out of these conversations, but you've come to the same conclusions I have. So there's no deeper discussion to be had, no other points of view. So I listen. Hey, sometimes I pick a dud. This just happens to be a dud. No, there's no arguments, no hate it, but it's just, hey, it's kind of a movie with a little.
It's got great concepts. I really think this movie should have been a television show, so we could dive into the world building, so we could dive into the psychology of these different characters and really explore the concept, because it, in and of itself, is a cool idea, and I wish it would have come to fruition. I think execution's the bigger problem. Too much cheesiness. The superpowers cause a problem, and it doesn't feel like the director or the writer trusted the audience a lot, being spoon-fed the exposition. And one example that I really disliked is they didn't trust the audience to remember that the the tuning manual memory was in John's pocket. They had to really show Kiefer Sutherland put down the memory stick that the aliens wanted him to implant into John, taking out John's, and even tell John, hey, I'm doing this, and then I think that scene would have worked so much better if
no dialogue.
No dialogue, and they would have just trusted the audience to figure out what was happening. It was just way too many shots. Do one shot of him like messing around with John's jacket, so you could be like, all right, I remember that was in his pocket. Oh, he's switching them out. And then for those who didn't notice that or didn't remember that, coming to the realization when Mr. Book does, when he looks down at Kiefer Sutherland's hand and sees the two memory sticks, I think it could have been framed a lot better and been more climactic if they would have trusted us. But the film just doesn't seem to trust its audience. And that's one thing that I always am impressed by when movies do. And when they don't, I think it damages the film.
And so the first two acts is basically cat and mouse, running around, a lot of chase, a lot of small fights where John's on the run because he can't he doesn't understand how to use his powers yet. And it's a lot of exchanges to understand, questioning human soul, this and that, why are you doing this? And also giving us a look at what makes somebody feel a certain way. Is it the memories, or is it maybe at base level who they are even without the memories? Because we have this point. John Murdoch is somebody without memories. He has no real base. He has flashes of something that maybe was a combination of previous experiences, but he is essentially a blank slate of who he was and what he's going to be. And we see that I do like the idea of he is presented with all these situations and makes the morally correct choices every time. When he still thinks that he has a wife, he doesn't sleep with the hooker. He leaves. Or he goes see, can I kill somebody? No, I can't.
Personality is preserved through the lack of memory.
Yes. And the same thing can be seen with Jennifer Connelly's character. Her personality seems to persist through the memory swapping. So I like that aspect and question. And a lot of the conversations in the movie are centered around that. What makes somebody somebody? Is there something that, despite lack of memories, is ingrained in our DNA? And you just said it, personality kind of breaks through. So the fact that John chooses to do good without any reference of what good is from memory or experience is an interesting path to explore. Whereas the Mr. Hand, when he gets the murderer memories implanted, he decides to go full bore into it. He kills women left or right. He kills people. He's saying, I am the monster you were supposed to be. Actually says it. I'm the monster you're supposed to be. And that's also another interesting thing. These entities who have no experiences of their own, how when this guy is given the chance to experience it, he completely becomes it. He wants it. He accepts it because it's an experience. Doesn't matter what it was. I don't think it even matter what it is. It's such an experience. He wanted it completely, good or bad. And that shows that maybe that at the base level, all these aliens have no morality. They are at the core bad. So I like that back and forth. So that's basically that's the two acts. It's a lot of interactions. We don't need to go over every scene of that.
No.
It's a lot of repetitive stuff, which brings down the score of the movie because they repeat the same types of conversations over and over again. So you get to the third act, as we said, after William Hurt's ignominious death. I just like saying ignominious. He gets John is captured, and Kiefer Sutherland has one last chance to try and tip the scales in their favor, because despite everything, his scientist character has been trying to save everybody that's been captured, because they give you that shot of him having been tortured and brutalized by the aliens, and then given only one thing. The only thing he's allowed to have is his talent. It's all he's allowed to have, and then whatever memories he makes going forward from that point on. So he in a moment, as you said, was a switcheroo. He jabs the needle into the head with the memories. And I do like this experience, because this is one of those things where say, oh, whoa, he just gets his powers. No, he essentially had training. It's, for those who want to know it, it's a good anime equivalent is the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball Z, where you spend a year to training. And he basically got it, but it's a year in one place, but a minute or a short amount of time in reality. So he experienced everything in a time dilated type of thing, where it was a lifetime for one thing, but a few minutes in the outside world. And I'm okay with that. And I also like the experience, because I like the way that's where Kiefer Sutherland does his best work in the movie, being the different moments in the time, talking about, explaining, teaching him this and that. I liked it. I like a good training montage in whatever way, shape, or form, because it denotes experience learned, experience earned.
I found it incredibly unsatisfying. Like I said, I'm already by this point against the notion of superpowers being involved in the film, and then him suddenly getting an implant, and then he's better at this superpower than everybody else who was actually born with this ability, and assumedly has practiced those abilities more than even the implanted memories, but still then he's able to take all of them on at once.
He's juiced. He's really juiced. There's no explanation for why he's so juiced.
Yeah,
comparatively
it's
to
just
all of them.
really unsatisfying. It really feels like a Deus Ex Machina, and the memories themselves I don't think would lend towards muscle memory, because there's a difference between remembering how to do something and then having your body attuned to be able to do that. Like if you had the memories of the best kung fu fighter in the world implanted in your head, your form would be good, but you don't have the muscle tone to be able to accomplish certain moves. Yeah, there's more to it than the memory. There's the physicality of it, and you'd assume that the tuning, which is part of your brain, would have the equivalent of muscle memory attached to being able to use it. And then the memories themselves are just Kiefer Sutherland going, "You go, boy, you got this."
I like that. I like that.
That's not real training, though.
Well,
Because
we see him.
he doesn't know how they work. He has no idea how these memories worked, yet he can, or how these powers work, yet he constructed a memory device that is able to teach someone how to use this thing that he doesn't understand by just saying, "You go, boy, you did a great job. What did you do? I have no clue." And it's just him just showing up around the little boy and saying, "Good job."
He's practicing levitation. He's practicing making things. He's doing this. He's practicing telekinetic abilities. He's practicing in the memories. It's good enough for me.
But Kiefer Sutherland doesn't know how these powers work enough to be able to even create these fake memories. And even if he knew how they looked, you wouldn't know how they felt on the inside to be able to give him these abilities.
I'll give you that.
And he can't teach them in the memories, because that's all he says is, "You're doing a great job." It doesn't make any sense to me. I can't buy it at all. I think this film would be a lot better without the superpowers at all. Just focus on the psychology.
I like the superpowers, but I will agree it goes over the top in the battle, because, as I said, there's no explanation for why John is so much more powerful than the combined alien consciousness. Because he's just, when the fight breaks out, he's just slapping them aside left and right. And a lot of them die, but we don't know. That's a problem I have with the end of the movie here. We know he kills Mr. Book, and he kills several other ones, like that the creepy little kid gets sucked out into space. But there's still dozens of them in there. A lot of them got crushed. We know that, but
yeah, there's too many of them to assume that they all died in that fight.
Yeah. Now, and Mr. Hand's death has explained the fact that he's now rejecting the memory implant, which he's dying in.
Which they did set up. They said no one who's ever had human memories implanted in them has survived long, but he did it anyway.
Yeah. My only guess is that at some point John makes it rain and they don't like water, which is that they did not explain that enough. Because obviously when he pulled the symbiote out of Mr. Book into the water tower, the water hit it and it exploded. But
yeah, that feels a little bit like Signs, even though
Yeah.
Signs would come afterwards, but it's
Yeah.
still like
Yeah.
water is the fundamental building block of life, and if you can't handle water, scientifically speaking, this movie is not scientifically sound. I will say that the sci-fi elements are bonkers, especially when he makes the ocean at the end and steps outside. But my brain was starting to curl up and die a little bit.
Well, the only thing is that he is at the end of it, because after John kicks ass and takes names, he's now God of this world. He is a god. He can make things. The machine that is the spaceship can make anything. He can, out of thin air, which is how they makes the water. And he goes to the beach, and Jennifer Connelly's there. Her memories change, but they still connect, and they're going to F whatever. They're going to live happy after. My problem is this, though. At the end of it, everybody clearly is shown whatever memory they've had last planted in is now going to be them. They're stuck that way because he's not going to do that. And they're going to continue their lives. And now there's going to be the pseudo sun that will give them a day-night cycle. But where does this go?
Do they go back to Earth? Do they?
Well,
just
they don't know
make
about Earth. Nobody knows about Earth. Kiefer Sutherland says wherever we came from is lost. We don't know.
So they're just going to be this city floating around this one sun forever,
not even one sun. They're just like floating through space, I think. And it's not even a real sun. It's just a sun to give light. It's not even like an actual source of gravity well or anything like that. And my thoughts, like watching this thing, okay, so I guess eventually John has to become God Emperor and lead them and continually create things that can make food and water and electricity. And
it sounds kind of boring, honestly. Like, what did they win?
What did you win? They won freedom to be whoever they are at the end of it, but
to continue being their fake implanted alien personalities.
Floating through space, and how he can live at the beach and F Jennifer Connelly, which back in 1998, hey, I'm all for. That's great. John wins. John wins right there. She's ready and willing already at that point. Let's go together. Let's hang out at the beach. But I mean, will he make a bigger world? Will he expand? I mean, like I said, the open-ended both works and doesn't work. We don't need to know what they're going to do, but I'd like at least an idea of what he wants to do. Besides, go F Jennifer
character
Connelly.
motivation. We need to know more about the character. I mean, there's another possibility is because the shared computer is assumedly connected to their hive mind. Does he have alien knowledge to be able to know where Earth is or where other planets are?
I don't know.
Nava computer.
Like
there's endless possibilities, and it's just like, I made a beach. Aren't I so awesome?
And he could maybe expand the city, create more land. I mean, we don't know. We don't know
Make
the
some
limits.
more variety besides just the Gothic town.
We don't know the limits of this.
Which is why I find that battle so unsatisfying either, because it's suddenly he's the greatest, but what limits are there? How
we're being critical here because this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to pick this apart, but subjectively, I enjoy this movie, but objectively, there are problems that are presented at the end of the movie that someone with an inquisitive mind like mine and yours, just give us something we can think, okay, he's going to go forth, he's going to multiply, and he's going to try and take them in a direction. But no, he just wants to go to the beach and F Jennifer Connelly at the end. That's it. And while I said that's not a bad thing to want to do, it's there. I want more, because that city just is going to keep floating.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's moving at speed of light. It's just floating. It's just
they're not getting
there.
anywhere quick.
No. Unless he summons up rockets, don't know. Small problems, but it does take the fact that I do enjoy this movie. It's a nice little sit down and watch, turn your brain off. Good performances. Special effects are fine for 1998. I mean, because everything's in the dark, it's a little struggle at times, but it's Dark City. That's the point. So the final moment is there's light and there's hope. And now they can go forward. Where, we don't know. But anyway, that's kind of all I got. You got anything else you want to throw out there?
Nothing that we haven't talked about. It's not a bad movie. I wouldn't say that. I think it's just failed to live up to its concept. It really just fell short, which is why I don't feel bad that it failed at the box office and kind of was relegated to cult only status. Like I don't think it achieved enough goodness to warrant a sequel to explain it.
Oh,
But
yeah, there's no sequel.
this actually is what I would classify as the perfect film for a remake, because it is a great concept that wasn't serviced properly. So this is the type of film that I would actually be interested in seeing a remake from talented people, of course.
Yeah.
This isn't a successful film that was incredibly well received, very well done, very well made, that people are remaking for no reason whatsoever. This is a okay movie, a failed film that could have done so
I
much
have
better.
fun watching it because, like I said, I watch it every once in a while. It's something I come back to because I like the ambiance. I do like the characters for the most part, and once in a while, I do want to scratch that dark science fiction itch of mine, where it's kind of a morally gray thing, and it's not just good against evil; it's just survival. That's kind of what this movie is. It's survival. And no one's doing this to save the world or to better themselves. It's, oh, I'm doing this so I live and you die because you're trying to kill me. It's very simple. But you're right. It is what it is, and I'm okay with it. And its cult status is deserved because it's a nice little movie, but it's nothing spectacular.
No.
It doesn't break the mold in terms of storytelling or character work or presentation. It's average production value. The camera work jumps sometimes inappropriately and sometimes keeps it on track. Good cuts. The music's nothing to talk home about. It's ominous when it needs to be, and that's about it. And because there's no real soundtrack because it's not connected to anything. So anyway, all right, we're done. We're ending it up. We'll wrap this one up a little early because, hey, as I said a little while ago, sometimes I pick a winner, sometimes I pick a dud. And this, I wouldn't call this complete dud, but it didn't provoke the what the fuck conversations I thought we might get out of it. I was hoping for a what the fuck conversation, but we didn't quite get that because we both came to the same conclusions.
Yeah, it's not that deep. I've seen some people say that it's a film that you need to watch many times to understand its deeper layers. I don't think it has any of those deeper layers. I think it's one of those films that some people watch it and they're confused by it, so they think it's really deep. But there's really just
I'm not confused in any way, shape, or form.
Right, but I mean, there are the people who say stuff like that, I think.
Yeah, but it's a nice movie, and I think my score of a 7.5 reflects that. I think it's a fair. It's an average. It's an average, just in moments in terms of some things slightly above average, but it's a general movie, not terrible. I always I do enjoy it. I don't feel like I wasted my hour 51 minutes of watch time for it, which is why I go back and watch it every once in a while. So, all right. So, Jed, what are you scoring?
Well, I think one change, getting rid of Kiefer Sutherland's dialogue, could increase the score by 1 or 2 points. Like it's that much full points that they could have fixed this film. But overall, I think it fails so much at what it tries to be that I can't classify it as a good movie. And so I can't give it a good score. There's great acting. There's a great concepts that puts it above some other things that we've seen. I have to go with a 4.5 out of 10, though.
Okay. I'm not gonna argue with it on it. I mean,
it would legitimately get another point or two if they cut that voiceover, because that's the whole point of the film. That's the whole mystery.
Yeah,
I mean, feel like that damages the movie so substantially. The twist is told to you immediately. It's like going into I don't know what's a great film with a twist, like Inception. Going into Inception before you go in there, they're like, oh yeah, it's all a dream. It's going to ruin your experience.
Yeah. Listen, as I said, sometimes these things land, sometimes they don't. And if you and I were doing this the way we do this, where we are legitimately trying to see what works in a movie and what doesn't, we're not going to score it the way we do. We're saying, oh yeah, good time, it's fun, it's fine. But we're legitimately trying to not only discuss thematic stuff, but also production value, why it doesn't work, why the story doesn't work overall. So, and we're going to nitpick, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the movie it's not terrible. It's a good, I like it. It's a good movie.
It didn't feel like we wasted our time.
Yeah, no. And like you said, it does pique interest, does create thoughts, and one can get good ideas from it. Anyway, all right. So, Jed, you have a sort of timely movie for us next week.
A bit of a timely movie. Yeah, I feel like it's been a little while since we've dove back into old classic Hollywood films with an old classic Hollywood performer who, I don't know if this is controversial, but I think he's one of the greatest of all time. Jimmy Stewart. We're going to be going.
Jimmy Stewart is one of the greatest. I mean, we're talking about known as the ambassador to people, the goodwill ambassador. That's what he was kind of known as for generations. Jimmy Stewart was the goodwill ambassador. You put him out there, and you're just gonna, oh shucks, it's Jimmy Stewart.
I do plan on picking his Hitchcock movie at some point. We need to pick some.
He's got you got Rear Window, you got Vertigo.
I do plan on picking several Hitchcock films eventually.
I got all those.
But to be a little bit more timely, I decided that we're going to be watching his 1947 film, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Ooh, as I said, with Monday just around the corner, it's timely in the here and now. Anyway, so there you go, guys, in Olin Books, and we must remind you that currently the comments are open. Go to my community page, and you can now submit your suggestions for Chat Choice in February, for Chat Show Choice, where you guys choose a movie for Jed and I to watch. You go to there. The rules are in the comments, in the comment section, community tab. Leave a comment there. That is the best way to do it because it's solid. I won't lose it if you put it in the chat here. Best place to put it. And then you guys have another 2 weeks. You got to the end of the month. Then and I'm going to close it. I will collect them. I will give them to a third-party person who has not submitted a suggestion, because some people we do stream with have submitted suggestions, so I can't just say, here, you do it. He or she will then choose what they consider the best 5, and then I will put it up the first week in February for a vote, and then you guys have a week to vote, and then we will choose to watch it because we have to, because you make us. Now, a lot of good movies in there. So we got some good suggestions. No, once again, it looks like you guys are coming through. No garbage. You've submitted good movies. So we should be pleasantly surprised by several of them. Several of them I own. Some of them I don't. But they're a good one. So go there. Go do that. It's your way to participate. We do it every quarter. This is the first quarter of 2025 where you guys could do it. So go do it. It's a lot of fun. And it's a chance for you to steer the show once in a while. That's where we do it. All right, then. So thank you all for joining us this Saturday evening. We hope you have a good rest of your Saturday. And we'll see you next week. So until then, bye.